let's talk about how to maximize your child's IEP annual review. First, what is an IEP annual review? So, if your child has an individualized education plan or an IEP in a public school, they're required to have an annual review meeting at least once a year. And typically, those happen in the spring, so in April and May. At this meeting, the parents attend, also the child's general education teacher, special education teacher, and members of the administration. And this is called the IEP team. So today I want to share 5 tips with you on how you can maximize this annual meeting. Okay, my first tip is to make sure that you understand your rights. So the school will send this home to you as a thick packet. It's a little bitty print. It can be a little overwhelming. This is called parental rights. I recommend doing a little research online, making sure you feel comfortable if that packet is overwhelming. So there are a couple of great sites. There's understood.org, Rights Law, that's spelled WRGHT law, and also Alabama Special Education Services. So these are some places to get parent-friendly, plain language explanations of what your rights are as a parent. There are many important things, but the main thing I want to emphasize that's your right is that you are an equal member of your child's IEP team. So your vote, so to speak, does not count less than the educational professionals in the room. You are an equal member, and the team cannot decide anything without the consent of the full team. And your concerns are equal to theirs. So just make sure that you feel confident in expressing yourself, asking questions, and getting your questions answered. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to really approach these meetings by trying to establish a sense of partnership. Sometimes feelings can really run high in these meetings, and you might not be happy about the progress your child's made, and you might have good reasons to be upset. But of course, no one in any field wants to feel attacked. Anything heated language can put people on the defensive. And typically when anyone, but especially education professionals, when they're put on the defensive, I don't feel like we get the best outcomes for the child. So I really recommend looking at this, trying to create a sense of partnership with your IEP team. So even if this hasn't been a great year, even if there are issues, I would start with some positives, compliment, give credit where credit is due. If there have been positive things you've noticed from your child this year, or positive things that members of the IEP team have done for your child, call those out. Start with the positive. It's always nice, certainly not necessary, but I've seen parents bring cookies or flowers or a coffee that they know their teacher likes. Just something to kind of show that that they are working hard for your child, even if you are going to have to address some less pleasant things later on in the meeting. Okay, so let's get into some nitty-gritty things that you can look for in your IEP. All right, so the first thing I want to mention, the IEP will include your child's present levels. And this is where your child's teacher, whoever wrote the IEP, their case manager, is going to include, like, where are they currently? What are their current strengths and weaknesses? Right, and these should have data attached to them. This can be data from a state test, from a universal screener, from some additional diagnostic tests that the teachers have done with them, but it should be data-based. It can't just be their general impression. We really need to have some good, strong data there. I want you to check and make sure that is updated data. Sometimes I'll see IEPs and the present levels were just copied from a previous year's IEP. We really need updated testing and data there, because that's going to tell us, where are the child's weaknesses today. Hopefully they've improved over the last year that they've had this IEP, or maybe they have new areas of weakness. Some things have gotten better, some things might be weaker, but we needed that updated information. If your child has a weakness in reading, which most families who attend Read Write, their child has a weakness in reading, um, we should really be using more, in my professional opinion, we should be using more than one test here, because reading is a very complex area. And I think one test, you're probably only getting one dimension of their strengths and weaknesses. So as much as possible, I recommend, maybe they do have like the universal screener, something like the STAR test listed in the present levels. But hopefully they've also have done they've gotten the child's word correct per minute, kind of where they sat down one-on-one with the child and had them read. Maybe they've done had them read some word lists so we can see what phonics patterns they've mastered, have them do some spelling, like the test of written spelling. So looking at all the different dimensions and getting data on all of that can really help develop a robust IEP. Okay, my fourth tip is about the IEP goals. So for each area of weakness, your child will have a goal. So for example, if your child had a weakness in reading and attention, they'd have a reading goal and they'd have a separate attention goal. So the goals in Alabama and probably other places too they have to have a state standard attached to them. Well, that makes sense because of course we want kids to be able to do the standard set by our state. However, the IEP goal should not just be a copied and pasted state standard, because if they could do the standard, they would be in general education. If it's special education, they need a goal that is specialized, more specific, so that then they can ultimately reach that state standard. One thing that could be done to make this possible that I see is pretty underutilized in IEPs in our area is adding benchmarks. So say if their goal, this was for a child going into third grade, and their goal was that they would be able to read a third grade level text with enough fluency to comprehend it, they could have benchmarks for all of the things that would have to go in to being a fluent reader. So that might be decoding words that are on a third grade level, recognizing sight words that are on third grade level, having a certain words correct per minute on a third grade passage. So we could have benchmarks that break this goal down into smaller areas. And your goals are important because your goals are they're going to drive the instruction your child receives, and that instruction your child receives is going to drive their outcomes. So it is very important that the goals are specific. Sometimes I see goals and it just looks like a word salad. It's just a bunch of buzzwords all thrown in together. And a lot of times those are the ones that are copied from the state standards. And we just really need to be more specific, more individualized, because that is the nature of the plan. Okay, my fifth goal is to really look at the achievement targets. Sorry, my fifth tip is to really look at the achievement targets that are set in your child's goal. So a lot of times I will see achievement targets that are in the 70th or that are like 70%. So it'll say that the child will be able to read a third grade level text with 70% accuracy. They will be able to decode third grade level word list with 75% accuracy. When it comes to reading, our accuracy needs to be much higher. In order to fluently read a text, you really need to be reading with over 90% accuracy. Accuracy is so important for kids to overcome their learning disabilities. I would rather see a much higher accuracy rate and a lower level of text, that they would be able to read a second grade level text with 90% accuracy. And yes, they might be in third grade, but they have an individualized education plan. We could individualize their education. So we could put them on a lower level text, but expect higher levels of accuracy. Ultimately, you're going to get better outcomes with that, because accuracy is just so important. Even if it's a math goal, you just got to think about 70% accuracy. That's a low C, that's not very high standards. So I think at least 80%, so we can get some rigor in there. Also look at how it is being measured. Underneath the goal, there'll be your child's teacher, their case manager will be able to select from several different options on how this goal is going to be measured. A lot of times I see selected, it's like teacher observation. Um, and, of course, you want the teacher to be observing the student all the time, but that is not something that is as easy for us to get an objective read on. So really look at that and talk with the team about it. It would be great if there could be a selected assessment that would give us, great data that would, could not potentially be biased. And then you could get a really clear look on, has your child mastered those goals? So I hope this gives you some things to think about. If you are struggling figuring out what to do to get your child's IEP to really work for them, we do have consultants that can assist you with that here at ReadWrite, and we do have an advocate on staff who can help you get ready for your child's IEP meeting and can even attend IEP meetings with you. So please reach out if we can help, and we appreciate you letting us help you on this journey.